broadcasting live from the Mappable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks, we always talk about crowdfunding and all these different applications. Today we have a really fun one to talk about, I'm sure. Before we get into that, let's introduce Vicky Hutchmala from the World Token Market. Vicky, how you doing today?
I'm fabulous, Ron. It's an excellent day in Vegas, like it always is. Getting warm, getting nice. I love it. And today we're going to go in a different direction, talking about crowdfunding with a new guest who crowdfunded for a distillery. How fun is that? My favorite thing, drinking. I love it. Let's get started.
Well, I'm going to have to put my coffee aside after this one and get into more fun stuff. But before that, let's introduce Adam von Gootkin. He's the CEO and co-founder of Highclere Castle Gin. Adam, how are you doing over there today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks. It's good to be here with you guys.
Our pleasure, Adam.
I'm glad we found you guys. You guys have a great story and doing the distillery and everything and taking that to crowdfunding. What a great concept, and I'm really looking forward to hearing this story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a unique journey for us, so it's a fun one to tell.
Yes. Well, before we get into the whole crowdfunding aspect of it, maybe we can go into your background a little bit and how you kind of got started with all this.
Yeah, happy to, of course. My family history actually goes back to the 1800s in distilling, having come from the UK to New England in the US. And long story short, we were rather active during the Prohibition period, if you catch my drift there, but we'll save that for another time. About 10 years ago, I really had just kind of discovered the craft of distilling and very much fell in love with it. And so my business partner and I, we built the first distillery in Connecticut to be constructed here in many, many decades. And at the time, the craft distillery movement wasn't really a thing. It was kind of just the brewery kind of thing had just really exploded around the U.S. But of course, our passion was in the distilled spirit side. And so we created a wonderful boutique craft brand that did quite well. But I had noticed in the market that, a large amount of the brands that are available in the liquor stores are, owned by a few of the big global players. And many of the brands that exist are kind of designed in corporate, marketing boardrooms. And if there even was a story with the brand, nobody knows what it is. And in many cases, the stories are even kind of made up. And I have this philosophy that more than ever, I think consumers want to know where the product has come from, where's it coming from, what's the reason for its existence, why should it be, what's its reason to be. And so I started looking for an opportunity somewhere around the world to bring to life a time and a place and kind of merge that into the traditional model of the liquor business, brand building and distribution and all the wonderful things that we had set up. And so I, like many millions of other people, I was introduced to Highclere Castle through the TV series Downton Abbey, which is one of the most watched TV series in human history. And it was from there that I realized that Downton Abbey was filmed at this real castle and estate, about an hour and a half west of London, called Highclere Castle, with its own incredible history and heritage and pedigree around it. And it's lived in and run by the Earl and Countess of Carnarvon. Lord and Lady Carnarvon are incredible people who have worked very hard to maintain the estate and the castle and to kind of protect the traditions that have always been, had at Highclere. And so I was able to get in touch with them. And, we decided from, those meetings to forge a partnership to really bring the spirit of Highclere, if you will, to life around the world. The castle itself has hosted many of the world's most famous and interesting people over the centuries, royalty and celebrities and statesmen and artists. And they've often come to Highclere for your classic kind of English countryside weekend party. And Lord and Lady Carnarvon keep that tradition going today. And we know at least for the last 100 years, those evenings have started with gin. So we said, how perfect is it that inside the castle walls, if you will, there's all of this entertainment and this kind of grand hospitality that happens. And they've been enjoying gin at least since the 1920s, slightly before then. But just around the castle, the grounds and the estate, it's full of botanical gardens. And there's a Victorian-era orangery that grows oranges and limes and lemons. And, there's the walled monk's garden with lavender planted by the Bishop of Winchester in the 9th century. So it's over 1,000-year-old lavender bed. And so it was easy in a way to walk out of the back door of the castle and roam the grounds and say, my God, all of the ingredients we need for a gin are growing right here, right now. And so we started playing around for about a year and a half and developing the recipe. And we're also the first gin in the world to use oats. And these oats that are grown at Highclere have been traditionally grown for thoroughbred racehorses, as Lord Carnarvon's father and grandfather were both racing managers to Her Majesty the Queen. And so we integrated these oats, and that creates this incredibly kind of creamy, velvety finish to the gin that you had mentioned earlier, that you got some of that off the taste, Vicky. But it's, I think that's a big part of how in the last 2 years we've won 58 international double gold, gold, and platinum awards, and we're now amongst the most awarded gins in the whole world.
Wow, that's incredible, especially because it's so new. It's a brand new gin. It's just on the market, and to accumulate that many awards in that short of time just testifies to how fabulous the gin is.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is a testament to that, and especially considering that, after a couple, strong years of preparation for the brand itself and the company and, the formation of the management team and all that good stuff, we launched it, and 4 months later, COVID locked down and closed all the restaurants and hotels. So half of our customers were closed down around the world. So having survived that is also a testament, I think, to dedication and an amazing team that I'm lucky to have put around this.
Yeah, and Adam, before we started the podcast today, you had mentioned that you weren't even that big of a gin drinker before this happened. So that adds to the mystique of this whole story, right?
Yeah, it is. It's very true. I'm traditionally a brown spirits guy, and although I do appreciate the craft that goes into any and all spirit categories, of course, and I've made just about everything now. But yeah, gin would not have been counted amongst my favorites. And so the challenge with that is obviously Highclere Castle lent itself best to gin because of the garden and because they've been serving it there for so long. Like literally when cocktails were just kind of invented, Highclere was playing it. The Highclere Castle head butler, whose notes we have from, the late 1910s, was playing around with the original cocktail. So it had to be gin, but I was not in a position where gin was my favorite category. So what we ended up kind of having to do was to craft a gin that really would be something that we would all love, and still be true to the tradition, still be true to the London Dry category, kind of be a traditional London Dry, English gin in every way, yet somehow to modernize it and make it really delicious, so that me as a purist, like you, Vicky, who said you only drink it straight or on the rocks, I needed to be able to really enjoy this straight. So we spent a year and a half on that recipe with 25 iterations to get it perfect, and I think luckily we did it.
Oh, and as I was saying, gin is not like you. Gin is not my favorite. I hardly ever drink it because it's just kind of nasty tasting. No offense to anybody, but when I tasted this Highclere Castle gin, I was just stunned at how delicious it is. It has this velvety, smooth finish, and you can not only taste a lavender and kind of earthy, kind of juniper, rosemary kind of aftertaste, but you can smell it. You can actually smell the same thing that you're tasting. And I got to say, Adam, it was quite delicious. I was like ready to put a straw in the bottle.
I think Adam may hire you, Vicky, as a brand spokesperson after that testimony. Man, that was great.
That one, you're hired. You're done. No, but you're totally right. And one of the things that we did was, I think by backing down on the juniper, because juniper is that kind of piney flavor that turns some people off from gin. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that is definitely the forward flavor for most gins, and always has been since gin was invented, because juniper is the predominant note. That's what gin is. But by backing that down and really allowing the citrus to come forward, we grow these tiny little beautiful oranges in the Victorian orangery, and we use lime flower, and then we use lemon peel from the lemon trees. And this is all comes together to create it more citrus forward, which I think plays better in cocktails. I think it's a slightly more modern touch on the recipe, and it allows people like you, Vicki, who are not traditionally a gin fan, to taste it and say, wow, I really actually enjoy the way this tastes.
Oh yeah, and like I said, I didn't mix it. I didn't make a cocktail. I didn't put any tonic or anything in it. I just had it straight. I didn't even chill it. I just had it just in a little shot glass, and I like I said, I was shocked. Absolutely, it's fabulous. But let's talk about how you got started, Adam. How you went into crowdfunding, and how did you decide to do that? But let me ask you this: do you create this gin at Highclere Castle? Do they have a distillery, or is it just in Connecticut?
Good question. Oh yeah, no, everything is produced in England. That was really important to me. Even the bottle is produced in England. And what we do is we take all the botanicals from Highclere, and we send them to a distillery that is the oldest gin distillery in England, and they also house the oldest copper pot gin stills in England. That's where it's distilled and blended to proof and bottled, and then it's shipped around the UK, Europe, and then it comes to the US as well. So we've got offices at the castle and offices in Connecticut for the kind of U.S. headquarters, and so it's shipped here, and then we're in about 28 states around the country.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and especially with a liquor, there's a lot of regulation and a lot of everybody in your business kind of situation that you have to overcome. Interstate commerce, international commerce, regulations, and all of that.
Yes, it is a regulatory beast, that's for sure. Every state has different laws, and every state has kind of different logistical requirements, distribution requirements, or rules. So yeah. It's definitely a big thing to manage for sure.
So how did you decide to use crowdfunding, and what kind of crowdfunding platform are you working on?
Yeah, great question. Well, we originally launched the company with a Series A investment from private investors, basically in our network of people that we knew, sophisticated investors, from people with liquor industry history, successful exits, operational success and history as well. So a really kind of diverse group of Series A investors from all around the world who were able to add some value in addition to capital, which I think is really important when you're starting a brand that so quickly kind of has to go global, or global to an extent anyway. Then as we were coming out of this last year, we got more opportunities in a way than we can kind of go after. So we're having to stay quite focused. But as opportunities are happening and coming up for us in Europe and even now in Asia, we're looking at them and saying, there's a demand for the product. And so we need to fuel, and prepare for fueling further expansion. And so we looked at going the traditional, financing route of a Series B raise. But then we looked at it and we said, we've got a growing customer base from all around the world. These fans of our product might be fans of Downton Abbey, or maybe they're just Anglophiles, or people that really like gin, or maybe they're perhaps customers that really like lifestyle and luxury goods. So we thought it would be interesting to try a crowdfund to allow our fans, people who are already customers or maybe new people to the table, to jump in, own some equity in the company, and then really enjoy the journey of growing this brand around the world. And it's kind of fun because we're seeing customers who are investing, and they might have already been customers for since we launched, and now not only are they customers, but they get to be investors, and they get to be brand ambassadors and proudly kind of share the story of Highclere Castle Gin to their friends and family and neighbor, And so it's been really a fulfilling journey. But we just launched it a week ago, so it is brand new. We're kind of learning as we go, the whole crowdfunding thing. So, yes, very new.
Well, congratulations. And, I think that's one of the not main, but an important part of crowdfunding is allowing the end user to actually invest in what they enjoy and be a part of it. Like you said, a part of the journey and a part of what's going on, and it just makes you feel good that you're able to do that. And let me ask you this. Do you have investors from around the world, mostly in the United States? Do you have investors from England, London, where it comes from? Or do you even know that yet?
Yes. Well, in terms of our existing investor base, it's predominantly the U.S. and the U.K. And now with the crowdfund, obviously there's a lot of people coming in very quickly, and WeFunder does an excellent job with their diligence and kind of setting up someone to be a qualified investor to invest. But from what I'm seeing, there's locations coming in from all sorts of different places. So I think it's mostly U.S. and U.K., but I think I've seen some other countries pop up. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. And to your point about letting people actually participate in a brand beyond just buying the product, one of the things that's kind of interesting to me too is that a brand and a company like this one, where Highclere Castle is so historic and there's such a kind of heritage around it. I think in years past, this is the kind of investment that would be pretty closed door to the public. And I think one of the things that's kind of fun about it, when you've got such an old family and such an old kind of establishment, it would be closed doors and it would just go private and you get it done and you kind of move on. I think it's kind of fun and interesting that people can actually participate in a brand with such history around it, such grandeur and kind of beauty, and they can actually jump in and participate. And I think that's fun. And one of the special things I think about crowdfunding that allows a brand like ours to take advantage of.
Oh, yeah, well, let's talk about that deal a little bit more. On WeFunder, when you put your deal on WeFunder, you're going the Regulation A crowdfund CF route, right? That's what you're using for your raise?
Yep.
Right? Okay. And
exactly.
and that was what, up to $5 million? How much are you looking to raise on that project?
Yeah, our window gauge is about 3 to 5 million over the next few months. And if we hit it correctly, it'll help us to kind of speed up some of our initiatives, especially in Europe. We just launched Poland last week, actually, and the brand is already getting great traction in Warsaw, which has an incredible bubbling kind of mixology and restaurants and hotel culture. So it's fueling initiatives like that.
Yeah, and companies that do this under Reg.CF, you just don't go there and list it and it's done in a day. You have to get your lawyers involved. You have to do all that kind of stuff. And how difficult a process was that? And was that part of the seed money that people used to get this thing to the point of going Reg.CF?
Yeah, it was definitely a process that was a little bit bigger than we expected. It was about 6 months for us to prepare and get everything ready to launch this last week. And part of that was, being that we're in the liquor business and, of course, Highclere and all the ramifications, we had to make sure we really did our due diligence. And we're an existing business, too. There are some crowdfunds that start where someone's got an idea to do a thing, and you're just kind of seeding that idea. And that has less, I think, ramifications. And they're maybe able to afford a little bit less diligence. But for our situation, we had to be a little bit extra. So we had engaged a crowdfund attorney who specializes in these laws. And don't forget, too, that a lot of the Reg.CF and, some of these SEC requirements, they're relatively new in the world of business. So we wanted to make sure that we were following all that stuff to a T and not opening ourselves up, for any risk or any mistakes. So we had to be a little bit extra careful just because of how new this is. And being a liquor brand, too, with its own set of kind of regulations and all that, we had to kind of do double duty to make sure we were doing everything totally, appropriate.
Yeah, and then what's really interesting about this, too, is that not only do you have to get the green light from the SEC, you have to qualify through them, once you decide to go on a crowdfund portal like WeFunder, don't they have to vet you out as well? Don't they do research on the company and whether or not that deal is acceptable to them?
Yeah.
They don't list everything.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's an entire investment committee, and they have to look at valuation and, company historicals and management team and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
You read my mind for the next question regarding the valuation. How was that determined? Was that something that your lawyers did, or who actually created the price for that?
Yeah, well, we've got a couple groups that took an independent look at the company, and we of course did a very deep dive industry analysis on other comps and other brands and acquisitions and what the last kind of decade has looked like from that perspective. But at the end of the day, the company, as it says in any, as it says in our closing documents and stuff, for these kind of matters, the valuation for a relatively new business, kind of in startup mode, somewhat still, it's still relatively arbitrary how you select that valuation, and that language has to be in there, and that's very important to be clear about that. So we did a lot of due diligence. We've got a wonderful team of from our CFO to our board of advisors, who are all obviously very well versed in those matters. And then you've got accountants, you've got lawyers, you've got everybody kind of taking a look at everything at once to say, here's a reasonable valuation, and let's also actually, in fact, decrease it a bit from what we probably could say our valuation is X based on sales and based on where we're heading. But, we kind of took that back a little bit to give everybody a bit of an incentive to jump in. And so that's where we landed, yeah.
Yeah, and at the time when you considered crowdfunding, you guys had sales, right? You weren't a pre-revenue company, were you?
Correct. Yeah, we've been around since late 2019, just a few months before COVID hit. So we've been in market for about 2 years.
Yeah, you know what? That's the real formula right there. If you had sales, you had a healthy company and a great product, and then you want to take it to the crowdfunding level, that's gold right there, because the people love you already, and they become your evangelists. The investors become your salespeople, basically, at that point.
Exactly.
I think you're very right, and your company's kind of you've gone through a lot of the hard stuff, which is product validation. Can you get distribution? Are you winning awards? Does it taste good? What do sales look like? Especially what do sales look like in the middle of COVID, right, where the world had just become a chaotic kind of nightmare. So I think that you're very right. I think if the story can be like you've done all the right things, you've checked every box, the brand and company are coming out strong, and then you give people the opportunity to make. Yeah.
Yeah. If you were to graph my alcohol consumption during COVID, it would look like a hockey stick.
Well, I think that's the case for the world.
It's what kept us sane.
Yeah.
Somebody once said to me about investing in the alcohol business. Somebody said to me once, when things are going well, alcohol does really good, and when things are going bad, alcohol does extremely good. It's kind of true.
That's exactly
it really
correct.
is. But you know what? I mean, you have to get out there somehow as well. So there's a whole marketing issue and a marketing budget, and I'm sure that you guys have taken care of that as well. How important was the marketing for you when you started this whole process?
Oh, marketing for a spirit business is absolutely crucial. You're in this kind of lifestyle space. You've got a lot of competition. Saturation in terms of other brands coming to the market all the time. Yeah, absolutely. My philosophy is that you start with, you really focus and hone in on perfection, or as closest to perfection you can get. So you've got to get the flavor and the packaging perfect. It doesn't matter how much money that costs or how long it takes. It's got to be perfect. But then from there, you've got to tell the story, and you've got to engage people in a way that's beyond just running an advertisement or hemorrhaging money on advertising. You've got to be smart. You've got to be prudent, and you've got to be very thoughtful about where you put marketing dollars to help tell the story of the brand. Now, in our case, I think we've got it, maybe a little bit easier than some brands, where the product is very good, but the brand is maybe like from a town or from an area of the country or another country, and that's kind of the end of the story. With us, we're lucky and very fortunate to have Highclere Castle with its centuries of entertaining and botanical gardens, and of course Downton Abbey, and just being from such a prestigious place in the UK. So that helps helps to kind of attract media attention. And so as a result, we're pretty consistently featured in Forbes and Fortune and Robb Report and all the kind of the who's of media coverage.
Yes.
And so we try to leverage the brand the best we can to kind of get the story out there and get people understanding that it's not a typical gin and it's got a very incredible story around it. So it's worth tasting and kind of engaging in the journey with us.
Exactly. Did you use a marketing firm to help you with this, or did your consultants and advisors already have that in place? How did you go about doing it? How much did you do before you started into your actual launch?
Yeah, well, I think we worked with various agencies with different expertises over the years to kind of get ready for things. In terms of an actual marketing launch, we don't do a lot of traditional advertising. I often say advertising is kind of a tax that you pay for not being creative. So we tend to be a lot more social media driven and a lot more PR driven. I like earned media because that means you've earned it. You haven't just bought it. And so for us, it's really about those two pieces is, stay live, stay active on social media so that you can engage with your customers and retailers and bartenders, engage with them consistently and with quality, messaging, education. And then the second piece is of course the whole media component. When you've got a brand that's as unique as this one, the media tends to be relatively, eager to kind of understand the story and why the brand exists. So if you leverage those two things right, you save a lot.
Yeah, it's so important because we talk about the story.
Really...
The story sells the deal, and you've got a story that is, it's one of the best actually. It's so cool and interesting. It's like I got a friend who is a real Irish guy, talks Irish, looks Irish, everything, and whenever we walk into the bar, this guy just starts telling Irish stories and everybody loves it. It's just like, it's mesmerizing. And it's the same kind of thing here where you have this great story, you tell it to investors and they just have to love this thing. It's really, really cool. I love it.
Yeah.
It's unique. And I think that's, and most importantly, even more important than being unique, it's authentic. You know this because you're often, your guys are watching companies, but so many of the brands, so many of the products that come out in all different categories, in all different sectors, a lot of the time it's just not kind of true to what it's pretending to be. And our whole thing is just be exactly what we are and be really, really good at it. And that's the bottom line. And I think consumers want that. Like I know that I do. I made a gin for us, Vicky. Like, we weren't traditional gin drinkers. And by the way, I want to know where it's coming from. Is it sustainably produced? Is it run by a responsible management team? Do people care? I mean, this is what humans are consuming. It's got to be of excellent and real quality. And unfortunately, it's a lot easier to stand out these days if you're just very genuine and authentic, because we're so surrounded by products that aren't.
Yeah, did you know that 86% of statistics are all made up?
Yeah, kind of sad.
That's hilarious. That is really funny. I'm going to use that.
But I think this is an amazing situation. I love the idea that you guys. I mean, the whole story behind the thing with Downton Abbey is great. I mean, you're right there. You're looking at an audience of, I don't know how many people watch it, but it's got to be a lot, right?
Oh yeah, I think I've heard something like 250 million people around the world, something like that.
Oh yeah. God, yeah. And to be connected and you started off really at an advantage because of the background story with Downton Abbey. So many people have watched that series, and so you had an emotional connection to your customers and your crowdfunding investors because they already knew about it and they wanted to be connected to something that they love. So you started off at a great advantage and you made the most of it.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're lucky to have that connection, and I think at the same time that there's a lot of spirit brands coming out with celebrity attached, and I'm not sure I would be really intrigued by doing a another celebrity kind of X gin or X vodka or whatever. But in this case, it's a little different because we kind of have had the kind of aura of a bit of that familiarity with Highclere and Downton Abbey. Of course, that helps open the door up to a lot of people right away. But then what's really special about the brand is you dig beneath that little surface, and you realize that it's actually, one, this real place, two, that Lord and Lady Carnarvon are real people working really hard to kind of keep the castle going. And then you've got this history of entertaining and these botanical gardens. So all of a sudden you scratch past it and you say, my God, not only does it have a bit of celebrity connected to it, but it's not just about being centered around one person. It's really centered, the brand is centered around a philosophy, a way of life, a celebration of beauty.
Right.
And I think to liquefy that spirit of Highclere and allow people to kind of enjoy it from their homes or their favorite restaurant that's the fun.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And what you just said, Adam, I'm sure is going to get a lot of people wanting to contact you and get more information on your gin and your offering and everything else. How would they do that? What's the best? What should someone do to get more information on this?
Yeah, our website is highclerecastlegin.com, and on our website there's cocktail recipes. You can buy a bottle and have it shipped to your house, and also a link for our crowdfund on WeFunder. You can also go to wefunder.com/highclerecastlegin. That works too if you're interested in learning more about the investment opportunity. But yep, highclerecastlegin.com is just about everything you need is right there.
All right, good. I'm going to link all this stuff on our show notes so people could just click and go to that stuff. But Vicki, my takeaway from this whole podcast is I want to be invited to Adam's Christmas party.
There you go.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny you say that. So, with WeFunder, they allow us to list a bunch of perks for investing at different investment levels. And in a few of the levels, there's an opportunity to I could do one better than a Christmas party, but have you at the actual castle itself for a cocktail party in September.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Would love it.
Well, listen, Adam, I want to thank you for taking the time out today to talk to our audience about this. This is a fascinating story. Vicki, what do you think about all this stuff?
Oh, my God. My father always told me, and Ron knows this, I say it all the time, if you're going to do something, do it the best that you can. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And I think what you've done, Adam, is you have created an exceptional product, a delicious gin, and just brought everything together to make it work. Kudos to you and congratulations on your launch, and I wish you all the success because you definitely deserve it for making me like gin.
Well, Vicki and Ron, it was a pleasure to be here with you and to speak with you both. I very much enjoyed it, and thank you for the support of what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure, Adam.
Our pleasure. And folks out there, thanks again, Vicki, and thank you, Adam. And folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableusa.com. Go to that website, scroll down on our homepage. You'll see all our syndication sources. Pick the one you like best, and you'll never miss another one of our episodes. If you want to be a guest on the show like Adam was today, there's a guest tab there. Click that, fill out the form. We'll see what you do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, send us an email at info@mappableusa.com. Or just leave a comment on whatever page you're listening to this on right now. So thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. We'll be at you next time with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.